it's hard to know what to make of a season like the Washington football team had in 2020. You got to get used to calling them the Washington football team, first of all. Then you've got head coach Ron Rivera is coming into the fold, but then you find out that he has to undergo cancer treatment for leukemia. And then he comes back from that. Your first round pick quarterback from 2019, Dwayne Haskins, busts out, and you end up releasing him before even the end of his second season in town. Not good. You have a losing record. Traditionally not good. But yet somehow, some way, you still find a way in the NFC least to win the division. And then behind Taylor Heineke, of all people, you find a way to go and really stick a bit of a game to the eventual Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady in the wild card round before your season comes to an end. Really weird. You know, maybe if you're a Washington fan and you're just desperate to enjoy any type of success, maybe that was good enough for you. If I was a fan of that team, I'd be aggravated as much as anything because it's, So the first round pick quarterback we had busted out. He's not here. There's no quarterback of the future on the franchise. Certainly seems like this organization is hell-bent on not trying to draft one again right away. They finished below 500 but made the playoffs, but at the end of the day, none of that frickin' matters. Yay! Mediocrity! Whoopee! I mean, I don't know. It's weird. So, Washington in the offseason, not a surprise to me. Spent a little bit of money that they had available to try and upgrade their roster. Offensively, they brought in Curtis Samuel to be a wide receiver complement to Terry McLaurin. You know, Samuel's speed and versatility out of the slot and the things you could do with him certainly brings another element that was sorely needed to Washington's offense. I bring in Adam Humphries, a more traditional kind of established slot receiving option. They got Charles Leno from the Chicago Bears after the Bears cut him, so you're going to plug and play him on that offensive line. And then, of course, the big signing, I guess, so to speak, was FitzMagic, bringing Ryan Fitzpatrick into the fold and tasking him with being the guy to lead this team in 2021 defensively. Spent some big money on corner William Jackson, staking him away from the Bengals. In the process, they had a few guys leave. They got rid of Morgan Moses, which I'm not really sure, like, you get rid of Morgan Moses and you bring in Charles Leno to replace him. I don't exactly think that's an upgrade. But other guys on their defense, long time Washington stalwart on the defense, former 2011 first-round pick Ryan Kerrigan. His tenure with the team is over after a decade. Ronald Darby's gone. Kevin Pierre-Louis is gone. But you can certainly see there was a concerted effort to try and remake the offense in the offseason at least a little bit. Then we got to the draft. They spent their first-round pick on linebacker Jamin Davis, wanting to get some speed in that middle and back end of that defense. I certainly understand that, especially for Ron Rivera, who is used to having guys to coach like Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly. He wanted to find that type of guy in a Jamin Davis, and we'll see ultimately if he did. Samuel Cosme, the offensive tackle from Texas, we'll see what type of role he plays in his rookie year. Diami Brown was one of their 2 third-round picks, and he's the type of guy, you look at some of the things that he brings to the table, a lot of Washington fans are probably hoping he's going to have a similar type of impact to Terry McLaurin. And there's going to be an opportunity, I would think, for him to get some playing time and show what he can do. So slightly different looking Washington team, but still some of the same strengths and question marks as last year. In terms of the strengths, you look at that defensive line. Excuse me. Obviously, last year's number 2 overall pick, Chase Young, was a stud. You've got other former first-round picks like Montez Sweat on the other side. You've got, Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne. So you're talking about a team that has invested 4 first-round picks on their defensive line. It better be a frickin' strength. And it certainly was last year, and you could anticipate that when you look at the fact that they've invested so heavily in the defensive line with these 4 guys, not only is it going to be a strength of the team, it might be an even better strength with another year of growth and development for all of these guys that are in their mid-20s or younger. That's an exciting defensive line. And, if you're the type of person that wants to look at the formula, let's say, of the San Francisco 49ers of a couple of years ago, you kind of have an average quarterback in there, but you have that front 4 that can create all types of havoc for opposing offenses, all types of havoc for opposing quarterbacks. You can do some things. You absolutely can. Until you realize you got to have a quarterback to actually win it all. But that defensive line, I anticipate, is going to be a strength. When I look at their pass defense as well, was pretty good last year. A lot due, I think, to the pressure that front four was able to generate. But I would look at them with the signing of William Jackson and expect their secondary to be a little bit better this year. And then I look at some of the speed of their skill players. Like, one thing that's exciting to me about Washington in terms of their offense is the speed that they have with some of their skill players. Terry McLaurin's got some speed. And then you look at Curtis Samuel, he's got even more speed. Diami Brown's got speed and plays with speed. Antonio Gibson certainly got some speed and athleticism to him. So while not all the most established names, they've got guys that can make some big plays happen. They've got some guys that can cause some matchup problems for opposing defenses. I like that dynamic that Washington has in terms of their skill players. In terms of the question marks, I look at the running game. Maybe Antonio Gibson takes a step forward in year 2, but is it going to be enough? Are you going to be able to consistently be able to rely upon this running game and take some of the pressure off of FitzMagic and the passing game? And I look at that offensive line. You've got a couple new pieces at play there. Is this offensive line going to play to a level like it did last year, which was pretty good, statistically at least? You're going to need that offensive line to protect. And then I look at FitzMagic, too, just from a standpoint of, what you get with him at this point in time? How much better is he going to make this team? Like, is this one stop too many for him? And what happens if FitzMagic goes out there and stinks? If Fitzpatrick stinks, then what do you got? You going to Heineke? And if that's the case, then why didn't you play Heineke from the beginning if you were going to refuse to invest in the quarterback position? So I got some questions there. In terms of their schedule, as I look at potential important stretches, I really look at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. For them, you look at the first 4 weeks. You're hosting the Chargers, then you're hosting the Giants, and you got to go to Buffalo and to Atlanta. You want to get off to a good start if you're Washington. The Chargers are a real test, obviously, coming in from day one. You have to face Justin Herbert and that Chargers offense. Week 2, you want to be able to at least handle business against a divisional opponent. And you have to go on the road 2 straight games. Like, you want to come out of that stretch no worse than 2-2. If you're any worse than that, you're in some real trouble, I think, this year, even in the NFC least. And then you look at the tail end of that schedule, the last 5 games of the year, it's all divisional games for Washington, which for some divisions, it matters only some. If you go 5-1, 4-2, or 6-0 against your division, doesn't automatically need to be a requirement that you have the best record in the division in order to win your division. But sure, it's nice. But in the NFC least, it's very possible that this could be another year where it's a big schmoz of all 4 teams tightly grouped and tightly bunched together. And as a result, they've got to sit there and handle that business against those divisional opponents towards the end of the year if they want to have a shot. They host Dallas and go to Philly. Then they go to Dallas and they come back and host Philly. And then they got to go to the Giants. Like, 3 road games in the last 5. It's all divisional opponents. If Washington is even close heading into Week 14, the good thing for them, they can view it as they have a chance, an opportunity to potentially control their own destiny. As I look at the prediction for this team, you brought in FitzMagic, but how much of an upgrade is he really? Yes, maybe your defensive line will gel and get even better with another year together, but how much more can you really squeeze out of that? Yes, you've improved some of the offensive weapons. I would agree with that. But where's the real game breaker on offense? Like, Terry McLaurin's a really, really good wide receiver, I want to be clear. But is he an absolute game breaker? Is he absolutely a number 1 type of guy that imposes fear in opposing defenses? I don't think he is. Fitzpatrick's certainly not that guy. Antonio Gibson's certainly not that guy. You look defensively, they've got a lot of studs on the front. If Jamin Davis can play big as a rookie, it takes his defense to another level. But again, I kind of look at this team and I say, all right, you might be looking at a higher-end defense with a middle to lower-end offense. Another example of a team that seems to be more properly built for the NFL of 20, 25 years ago. Now, this is the type of team with that front 4, they could cause enough problems where it helps mask some of the other deficiencies on this team, and you're talking about a team that could easily win this division. And I expect them to be in the mix to win this division, but I ultimately think they come up short. While you could say, well, they have the best defense in the division, maybe they do, but the most important thing to have is the best quarterback in the division, and they clearly don't have that. Like I said, as I look at them, I don't see a ton of take over the game type of talent, especially on offense. I think something like 8 and 9, pretty similar to what they did last year, like teetering at 500 or right below it, feels about right. Which, if you're the Washington football team, let's be clear, that means this whole season is stupid. If you're going to go with a FitzPagic, you're going to refuse to try and make up for your Haskins mistake by identifying another young quarterback. Then you better damn sure do something with the construction of this team as it currently is. You better make a run. And I just don't see a team here that can make a run. And if you're not making a run, then you're in the worst possible place. You're mediocre as shit. This whole season is stupid, and Washington fans will eventually come to realize that. Should not be sitting there and getting so titillated and excited about, ooh, this team might win 8 or 9 games and could potentially win the division. Okay, and then what? Exactly. So I think we'll look back in a few months at this season for Washington and say, you know what? This was one gigantic waste of time for them.